Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, and today we're going to talk about Noche UFC, Diego Lopes versus Gene Silva. And my friends, it's going down this Saturday night live at the Frost Bank Center in San Antonio, Texas. You got the former title challenger, Diego Lopes, taking on the oncoming force, the fighting nerd, Gene Silva, in the main event. There's bad blood on the line. It's a hell of a card. So, my friends, without further ado, let's get right down to business. Main event of the evening in the featherweight division. We got Diego Lopes. He's 26-7, taking on Gene Silva, who's 16-2. Currently, they got it. Gene Silva minus 230. The comeback on Diego Lopes is plus 195. So Diego Lopes is 30. Gene Silva is 28. Diego Lopes is 5'11. Gene Silva is 5'7. I think he's 5'6. And Diego Lopes is going to have a slight 3.5-inch reach advantage at 72.5 inches of reach. So hell of a main event. Can y'all tell me what the bad blood is all about between these two? I didn't actually catch what they're beefing over, but I can tell that these two do not like each other at all. And man, this is a hell of a main event. Big respect for both guys. Let's start with Diego Lopes, man. I don't know if a lot of y'all know this, but Diego Lopes was considered to be like a journeyman on his regional scene. It was one of those things where, you know, he's probably going to have some success, you know, outside the UFC, but if he ever made it to the UFC, he'd probably go 500 at best. And boy, was that completely incorrect and just false. I mean, this guy went from being a journeyman on his regional scene to a #1 contender, a title challenger in a UFC fight. So that speaks volumes to the development, the maturation, the evolution of Diego Lopes's game and his determination to, you know, get outside his comfort zone. He left Brazil, he went to Mexico, and he's really found his home. And now he's becoming a household name in the UFC. So shout out Diego Lopes for what he's accomplished. With Gene Silva, this guy's a madman. Obviously, you know, he comes from the Fighting Nerds. They've been doing their thing. Now, I know two of them are coming off losses now, but I'm saying when you zoom out and you look at how they've performed in the UFC, the Fighting Nerds are one of the best emerging camps currently, and that's the bottom line. And Gene Silva is like the madman out of the group. You know, I kind of described the Fighting Nerds like all of them base their styles off of legends of the sport. Like, for example, Caio Borralho, kind of a hybrid between Lyoto Machida and Damian Maia. You know that Carlos Prates is highly and heavily influenced by Anderson Silva. Mauricio Hufi, he tries to do that Conor McGregor style. Now, let's not talk about what happened in his last fight. Props to BSD. Great job. But I mean, even if you pick BSD, I highly doubt you predicted that Hufi would go out there and land 0 shots in that fight. So hopefully it was just an off night, man, because like even if BSD was going to win that fight, I would have expected at least this much better of a performance from Hufi. So I'm very curious what happened there. But back to my point. Yeah, Gene Silva kind of reminds me of like the Vanderlei Silva of the Fighting Nerds, man. He's a slugger. He goes for it. He swings big. And I made a video not too long ago talking about this kind of new meta of MMA where guys, they do a lot of things wrong, but their physicality really carries them through. Whether we're talking about Dricus du Plessis, Lockdog, Gene Silva. And a lot of people were telling me that Gene Silva shouldn't be in that category. You know, he's too technical is what they told me. I'm like, yeah, he's got great techniques, but like Gene Silva, like can't get out of his own way. He literally fucks around the entire fight to the point where one of these days it's going to bite him in the ass. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all about the showmanship, the bravado, the mind games. I like it. The swag, the taunting. Like I'm a big fan of that stuff, but it's like, I think that sometimes Gene goes a bit overboard with it. And that's coming from me, who's a hardcore Anderson Silva fan. And if you know how Anderson Silva lost his belt, you know that the taunting bit him in the ass that night. But yeah, so for me, it's like when we talk about Diego Lopes's biggest weakness, I think that, you know, his takedown defense isn't the best. I think that he slows down as fights progress. I think that he's, you know, I don't want to call him a one-round fighter because, I mean, he did just win a decision against Ortega. He did go 5 with Volk, and he has evolved. But, like, he does his best success when he can get you out of there early in the fight. But with Gene Silva, when I talk about Gene Silva's weaknesses, like Gene Silva's biggest weakness is Gene Silva. Like if this guy gets out of his own way, he could head straight to the top. And at the beginning, I mentioned how there's beef between these two. So does that mean that finally, Gene Silva, you don't like this guy, that, hey, we're not going to high five every 5 seconds. We're not going to try to be the guy's friend until we kill him type thing? Or does this mean now that you don't like this guy, hey, we're going to fight with our hands up. We're not going to taunt every couple seconds. Like, I'm curious because I don't know, but I have an inkling, and just my instinct tells me that when Gene Silva finally loses in the UFC, it's going to be because he beat himself. Like not in terms of like he loses mentally before the fight even begins, but in terms of he takes things too far with the showboating. He fucks around too much where he has his hands down and he gets caught. Something like that. Like I can totally see that happening to Gene down the line. But as far as how these two match up, like I mentioned with Diego Lopes, his skills are big calf kicks, big power in his punches, and most importantly, his no-gi jiu-jitsu is pretty damn exceptional. So I would describe Diego Lopes as an opportunistic finisher. And with Gene Silva, again, yeah, he's more on the technical side, but I feel like people kind of overblow how technical he is. Like he'll take risks, he'll try some crazy stuff, but Gene Silva's a wild card, man. I mean, look, he's got some great techniques. It's just like every 5 seconds, like I love this stuff. Like in the Bryce Mitchell fight, he looks into the crowd and sees Mauricio Hoofy, and he's like, "Hey, Mauricio, look!" And then he throws like a spinning heel kick at Bryce Mitchell. Like I love the theatrics and all that, but I'm just worried that here, where the emotions are intensified and these two don't like each other, that something like that could bite Gene Silva in the ass. All that being said, I think he's going to be a little bit too fast for Diego Lopes, and the danger factor is definitely there for both fighters, but I see a more well-rounded attack from Gene Silva. Don't get me wrong, like Diego can compete everywhere, but Diego usually gets outclassed in fights where he's not getting those early finishes. And Gene Silva, I feel like he doesn't have to finish you early. Look at that Kevin Vallejos fight, man. He even lost the first round, came back and outclassed him in the second and third. So when Gene Silva's not acting like a what, he can fight his ass off, man. And I think he's going to come out here and beat Diego Lopes. Look, I do kind of think that Diego Lopes's fight against Alexander Volkanovski was a bit of a stunt. And let me tell you why. It's so easy to say now, oh, it's the great Alexander Volkanovski, one of the best pound for pound featherweight champions that have ever walked the face of planet Earth. Like we get that, but here's the missing context, guys. That wasn't a prime Volkanovski. That was a 37-year-old Volkanovski coming off 2 devastating back-to-back knockout losses. And Lopes had, the corpse of Volk handed to him on a silver platter, and you get your one opportunity where you hurt the guy. And usually when Diego hurts someone, he closes the show. He is such an opportunistic finisher. So for him to not be able to close the show when he had the ghost of Volk badly compromised, now the ghost of Volk is a UFC champ. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I love Volk. I had Volk on Half the Battle before he was even a ranked fighter. I picked him to dethrone the great Max Holloway. Like, I love Volk, but I'm going to keep it a buck with y'all like I always do on my show. And the Volk that's currently champion, it's crazy to me that guy's not the best fighter in the division, guys. Let's be 100 about it. This ain't 35-year-old Volk. This is like 37, 38-year-old Volk, guys. And Diego Lopes had his opportunity and he straight up blew it. And we know, historically speaking, when fighters come off, that title loss, dude, it's every fighter's dream to become a world champion. And he straight up blew it. Then their next fight, not always, but historically speaking, they have kind of a drop-off performance, and I can see that being the case here. So as long as John Silva doesn't get in his own way too much and do something stupid, I think he should be able to land some devastating stuff on Diego Lopes and come out here and secure a title shot. So I'm going Gene Silva to defeat Diego Lopes in the main event at Noche UFC. Co-main event of the evening in the bantamweight division, we got the longtime vet Rob Font, or as we like to say in Brazil, Hobby Font. He's 22-8, taking on David Martinez, who's 12-1. Currently, they got it Rob Font minus 130. The comeback on David Martinez is plus 110. So Rob Font is 11 years older at 38. He's 3 inches taller at 5'8", and he's going to have a 5.5-inch reach advantage at 71.5 inches of reach. So shout out David Martinez, man. I mean, this is a huge step up in competition. You fought, Xavier Franklin on Contender Series, which was a hell of a fight. Then you destroy Simon Oliveira in your UFC debut. A guy that went 0-2 or 0-3 in the UFC. Hey, here's Rob Font in a co-main event in your second ever UFC fight at Noche UFC. It's like, shit. Listen, I think David Martinez is a very, very talented and promising prospect. And in addition to his skills, which let me just describe them as intelligent. I mean, this guy's got nasty. Well, I'm not going to say nasty. This guy's got very, very solid footwork, side-to-side movement. His hands are clean. His kicks are super hard. He can mix in all aspects of MMA. This kid's the complete package. The only thing kind of missing is that he needs some experience. He needs to pay his dues. He's I don't want to say he's green. I just want to say that, he's untested, right? He's fought good regional guys, but Rob Font is a perennial top 5 guy. This is such a leap in competition. And don't get me wrong, I know that Rob Font has seen better days. I know that Rob Font is 38 years old. And that I bet Marlon Chito Vera against Rob Font. That I picked the great Jose Aldo against Rob Font, Hobby Font. But I'm just saying, man, I like David Martinez a lot, but dude, are you ready for this yet? I'm not saying that David Martinez can't win this fight, especially with the current form of Hobby Font. I'm just saying, dude, this is such a step up in competition, and you still have to be on a certain level to beat Hobby Font. I'm not saying David Martinez can't do it, because he is super skilled, but there's something about paying dues. There's something about getting that octagon time under your belt. And Rob Font's got that in spades. He's fought all the best of the best. And now, he moved to TriStar. He's on a little late career resurgence where he's, setting back some prospects. And whether you thought he won those fights or not, going into the Kyler Phillips fight, everyone said that Rob Font was completely done. He was a plus 400 underdog or maybe more in that spot. And in the next one against Matsumoto, people thought he may have lost that fight, but that's irrelevant to me. The fact that he was able to get that split decision against a young stud who was hungry, who was 16-0 at the time, I'm pretty sure, that speaks volumes that, look, Font may never challenge for a belt. Font may never beat a current top 5 guy ever again, but once again, to repeat myself, you still have to be on a certain level to beat Rob Font. And I'm not saying that David Martinez isn't, but I don't think that he's seen hands like Rob Font's before. Rob Font has the best jab in the bantamweight division, I think. Maybe I should take that back, because I know Piotr Yan and Song Yadong, and I know there's guys now that, okay, maybe I'm wrong, but let's backtrack and let's correct what I'm saying to this. Rob Font has some of the best hands in the bantamweight division. How about that? Can we agree on that? And lately, he's been doing a lot of forward pressure. So the dynamic of this fight comes down to the forward pressure of Rob Font. Is he going to be able to cut off that cage, get it into that phone booth, and minimize, where Martinez can kind of escape, with that lateral movement? Or is Martinez going to be too fast, touching and going, point fighting? And another thing, Rob Font's chin is a little shaky. Not that Martinez has the most power in the world, but we've seen Rob Font do all kinds of chicken dances. So yeah, it's not going to surprise me to see the young kid rise to the occasion, but I'm gonna go with the vet here, man. Look, I'm not saying it's going to be some kind of ass whooping or some kind of clinic by any means, but give me Rob Font to just show off his experience here. And I think David's going to have a good showing. And it's going to be like, man, you fought tough with such a seasoned vet. We can't wait for your next fight. You have a super bright future. But I think Saturday night live at Noche UFC, Rob Font is going to hand David Martinez his first UFC L. Featured bout in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Jared Flash Gordon, he's 21-7, taking on Rafa Garcia, who is 17-4. Currently, they got it Jared Gordon minus 230. The comeback on Rafa Garcia is plus 195. Jared is 37. Rafa is 31. Jared's 2 inches taller at 5'9", but Rafa is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage at 70 inches of reach. Guys, it's Rafa, not Hafa. He's Mexican, not Brazilian. Get it right, my friends. But as far as this matchup is concerned, man, I got so much respect for both these guys because neither guy's that athletically gifted. Neither guy's the fastest. Neither guy's the strongest. But these two, they use what they've been, they used what God gave them, and they've taken it so far, man. And for Jared Gordon, now being 37 years old, he's on like a late career resurgence. Not that like he was ever washing out at any point, but it seems like he's in the best form he's ever been in. And he's arguably on a longer win streak than people think. Look, here's what I'm going to say about the Patty fight. I know that everybody thinks that's like one of the worst decisions they've ever seen. And I'm not willing to necessarily plant my flag on that, but I will 100% concede this. Jared Gordon gave Paddy Pimblett his toughest UFC test. No questions asked. And also, I kind of thought he low-key beat Nazareth too. But man, the thing that I've been liking about Jared is, look, his striking has actually always been kind of underrated. The technique's always been there. But what I've noticed lately is that he's sitting down on his punches more. He's a lot more confident. He's always been super heavy on top, but now this volume striking is really taking him places. And with Rafa Garcia, he's another one of these guys, just so durable, maybe a bit on the slower side, but decent cardio. And he's one of these guys that, you know, if you're not ready to go 3 hard rounds with Rafa Garcia, there's going to be an issue. But Gordon is ready to go 5 to 10 hard rounds, you know? So I think they're very similar in certain aspects, but I just think that Jared Gordon is more physical, is actually faster despite being the older guy, hits harder, and is super strong with his top control. He's very, very heavy when he gets on top of you. So yeah, I think it's going to be an honest, most likely a 3-round scrap, but I'm going to pick Jared Gordon to come out here and win a unanimous decision. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Kelvin Gastelum, he's 19-10, taking on Dustin Stoltzfus, who is 16-7. Currently, they got it Kelvin Gastelum minus 230. The comeback on Dustin Stoltzfus is plus 195. So both men are 33. Stoltzfus is 6 feet, Gastelum 5'9". So this is super interesting. I think I have a bold take for this one. I may look like a complete moron, but whatever. We've looked like morons before. We've looked like geniuses before. Look at Contender Series last night. I was on the wrong side of a 16-second knockout, but I was on the right side of Samuel Sanchez, who barely anybody picked, right? So, like, listen, it goes how it goes. Sometimes you're going to be right. Sometimes you're going to be wrong. Sometimes you're going to look like God's gift to betting. And sometimes you're going to look like the biggest piece of shit that anyone's ever seen in their life. So just know I have very solid intentions, and I'm just here giving you my thoughts, my information. And if I can help you make better decisions with your betting, so be it. But just remember, I'm not placing the bets for you, and you're not placing the bets for me. So take everything I say, listen, you know, to what I have to say. I think I got a lot of good info and a lot of good knowledge, but at the end of the day, form your own conclusions, make your own bets, and take it from there. As far as this matchup is concerned, listen, Kelvin Gastelum has been a staple of both the welterweight and the middleweight division. You know, the thing that's plagued him is that my boy loves the tacos. Who doesn't love the tacos? I love the tacos. This guy's missed weight in multiple weight classes. And from that point of view, he still doesn't have his shit together. Like from day one, like when he missed weight, like, you know, by 11 pounds against Woodley, that's got to be like approaching 10 plus years from now. So like most recently, the stud against Daniel Rodriguez, man, like it's stunt after stunt after stunt with Kelvin Gastelum when we're talking about the tacos and the scales and stuff like that. But as far as the skills, man, if you want to bang in the pocket with Kelvin Gastelum, let me tell y'all something. At one point, when he first moved up to middleweight, he had an 100% knockdown rate. Like, it didn't matter if he won a fight or lost a fight. He knocked down 100% of the opponents he fought for like a little stretch there. And also, man, from time to time, his grappling ain't half bad either. Y'all remember when he took Jake Ellenberger's back and choked him out? Like, Kelvin is a well-rounded, solid dude. And the biggest thing about him is that durability. He's got a legendary chin. I mean, it's going to be a sad day when Kelvin Gastelum one day gets knocked out. Now, on the other side with Stoltzfus, man, this dude has had to pay serious dues. This guy's been through the ringer and he survived. And he's gotten to this point now where he's getting a big step up and a big test against a well-known household name in Kelvin Gastelum. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. I know this might sound crazy to a lot of people, but I low-key think that Dustin Stoltzfus is a live dog in this spot. Look, if he bangs in the pocket with Kelvin, I think Kelvin has a good chance to hurt him. But, man, there's a big size difference here. And I could totally see Stoltzfus come out here, body lock, take down this guy, get on top of him, take his back and choke him out. A heel hook even. Like, something crazy on the ground can happen here. And I think Stoltzfus can win in that fashion. So, listen, I know it's a bold pick, and I know I might look like a total you-know-what if I get this wrong. But, again, I'm not telling y'all to go crazy at the betting window or anything like that. I'm just telling y'all my thoughts. Y'all think for yourselves. But in my thoughts, I think that Stoltzfus low-key has a chance to get this upset because with Kelvin, yeah, we know his credentials, but like, bro, what's Kelvin's current run? No, seriously, what's Kelvin's current run? Check this out, y'all. Kelvin's 3-7 in his last 10. So to me, that's a clear sign that he's on the back end of his career. I know he's only 33, but what you got to understand is he's been in the UFC since he was like what, either 19 or 21 or something like that. So he's an old 33. And again, Stoltzfus, he's not free of flaw. I know that he can be on the goofy side a little bit, but like I said, I'm gonna make a bold prediction that Stoltzfus comes out here, uses that size advantage, that grappling advantage, and either grinds out Gastelum or actually comes out here and submits him. So I'm going to pick Dustin Stoltzfus for the big upset. Next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Alexander Hernandez, he's 17-8, taking on Carlos Diego Ferreira, who is 19-6. Currently, they got it a pick-em with a slight lean on Alexander Hernandez at -115 with Diego at -105. Diego's 40, Alex is 32. Both men are 5'9", and Carlos Diego Ferreira is going to have a 74-inch reach, which makes him have a 2-inch reach advantage in this spot. Man, interesting fight. If this was a couple years ago, I mean, I'm not just picking Carlos Diego Ferreira. I'm max betting him at these odds. But the issue is my boy's 40, 41, something like that. So at any point, the wheels could just fall out, man. At any point, the rug could be pulled from right under him, and you could just be seeing a ghost of the Diego we know and love. But that being said, something that needs to be understood about Carlos Diego Ferreira is that this guy has top 3 jiu-jitsu credentials in the entire UFC. And that's not my opinion. That's a fact. Because, I mean, name me a more credentialed pure jiu-jitsu guy in the UFC right now that's had at least 5 UFC fights. Don't let me talk about no Buchecha who's, not winning UFC fights. I'm talking about guys that are established with at least 5 UFC fights. I mean, Gilbert Burns, Carlos Diego Ferreira, name me someone else. I mean, just to put in perspective, Carlos Diego Ferreira beat Gary Tonin in a pure grappling match. So, I mean, that's all I got to say regarding that. And he's got a slow, methodical boxing style, kind of takes his time, but eventually he starts to slowly walk you down, put that pressure on you, that volume, and he starts to break guys. And if you take a bad shot on Carlos Diego Ferreira, he's got some of the nastiest sweeps I've seen in the UFC waiting for you. So, man, even at his age, he's a super dangerous guy. With Alexander Hernandez, listen, he's stuck around the UFC for a very, very long time. And I describe him as a one-round fighter. In round 1, he's dangerous. He can catch guys. He can put many people out. I mean, he knocked out Beneil Dariush, But any time that a fight has gone past round 1 with Alexander Hernandez, stuff has gotten extremely sketchy. I mean, like, current retired fighters have won decisions against Alexander Hernandez. I'm talking about guys like Bill Algeo. I'm talking about guys like Damon Jackson. So literally anytime Hernandez goes past round 1, stuff gets sketchy. So the way this fight plays out is either Hernandez is going to come out here and knock out Diego Ferreira in round 1, because listen, my boy Diego's 40, and this is the time where things that used to not happen are going to start happening. So yes, there's a chance that Hernandez can get him out early. But if Hernandez does not get him out early, not only historically speaking. Do all Hernandez fights get sketchy for him past round one? But Carlos Diego Ferreira also historically does a lot better as fights progress. He eases into it. He starts to get his volume going. He breaks guys. He walks them down. So if Diego looks like Diego, again, I know he's 40, but if he looks anything like himself and he can survive round one, I think he should take over and break Alexander Hernandez late. So I'm going with Carlos Diego Ferreira to beat Alexander Hernandez in the battle of Texas bragging rights. Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Quang Bang Lee, he's 9-2, welcoming Santiago Luna, who's 6-0 to the UFC. Currently, they got it Santiago Luna minus 135. The comeback on Quang Bang Lee is plus 115. So Quang Bang is 33, Santiago's 21. Santiago's 3 inches taller at 5'9". We're currently not aware what his reach is, but Quang Bang Lee has a 70-inch reach. So this is one where I need y'all to talk to me because I can tell y'all what I thought based off the tape and whatnot. But number one, I'm surprised about these odds. I'm surprised they're not flipped. Like, I get it. Luna is like the young phenom and whatnot, but he's like 21 years old and less than 10 pro fights. And don't get me wrong, he's super talented, right? Like, he's mostly known for his grappling, very heavy on top, some nasty submissions, and also his hands. Like, they don't look the cleanest, but every time I've seen him land on someone, he gets big reactions. So I think that Luna has some sneaky power, and as he develops and matures, he can be something one day. But when you're talking about these young phenoms, like we saw in Contender Series, whether it was David Magoyan, when I picked Tommy McMillan, I said that David Magoyan's a young phenom, but he's got to pay dues, and one day he'll be here, but just not yet. Whereas when I picked Samuel Sanchez, not Samuel Silva, Samuel Sanchez on yesterday's Contender Series, I felt like he was physically mature, and I felt like he was ready for the opportunity, period, point blank. Whereas Luna, I think Luna is going to be ready for the UFC one day. I'm just not convinced he's ready right now. And Quang Bang Lee is experienced, has fought real people, has been here before, has traveled overseas. I just think that Quang Bang should be favored here. Like, Quang Bang Lee can also grapple. Quang Bang Lee, they call him Bang for a reason. He's got a little something in his fists. I was pretty impressed with Quang Bang Lee's UFC debut against Chris Gutierrez. I thought he performed admirably. The next fight against Zhao Long. Listen, Zhao Long is a tough out, and that fight was also like way overseas. So maybe it was just an off night, but the subsequent fight against Bolaños, he treated Bolaños in a way where it was like, okay, you belong, man. Like, and you're, I don't want to say a vet, but he's definitely more of a vet than Luna. You know what I'm saying? So I see it being a good fight, but I just think that right now, Quang Bang Lee is just further ahead, right? It's just, the nuances are there a bit more than they are with Luna. And I think that Luna's got a bright future. He's going to develop into something nice one day. But unfortunately for him, well, in my opinion, I could be off about this. I think he's taking his first L Saturday night. I think Quang Bang Lee is going to have an answer for Luna in every department of MMA. So give me Quang Bang Lee to come out here and teach the young kid a lesson. Next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Dusko Todorovic. He's 12-6, taking on Jose Medina, who's 11-5. Currently, they got it Dusko minus 400. The comeback on Jose Medina is plus 300. Medina 34, Dusko 31, Dusko 6'1", Jose 6 feet, and Medina's going to have a half-inch reach advantage at 74.5 inches of reach. Here's the deal with this fight, guys. Medina, what's he known for? His toughness, his durability. So what does that mean? That means this guy gets hit a lot. That means that this guy's a bit of a punching bag. What else is he known for? I mean, y'all want to let me know? Is it his jiu-jitsu? Is it his striking? Is it his wrestling? No, it's his chin and his durability and his toughness. Like, that's it. So Dusko, what's he known for? I know he's a bit on the chinny side, but Dusko actually has some positive offensive tools that he brings. Like, for example, his ground and pound is pretty damn vicious. And he gets on top of Medina. I can see, despite the durability of Medina, I can see the fight being over shortly after. Here's my concern. What happened in Dusko's last fight is that he kind of emptied the clip in round one, and then he gassed himself to a point where he just had nothing left those next two rounds. And let's say a similar thing happens here where you beat the shit out of Medina, but then you gas out and the guy's still walking forward. The reason I'm not as concerned here as, for example, I would be in that Zach Reese fight is because I think that Zach Reese brings a lot more danger to the table than Medina. So yeah, Medina's going to walk forward, but like what offense is he going to offer? I'm just not sure. So although Todorovic does have his flaws, he leaves that chin up in the air and he's chinny, but can Medina crack? And then the whole cardio thing, like I said, okay, Todorovic, if he doesn't get you out of there with that ground and pound in the first round or two, he slows down too. But like, does Medina have anything offensive to make him pay for that? I don't really think so. So I think Dusko Todorovic can come out here, take this guy down, use that vicious ground and pound, and either get that ground and pound TKO or beat the shit out of this guy and win 2 of the rounds, kind of run away the 3rd round when the zombie's walking towards you, and win a decision or a ground and pound TKO. So yeah, I'm going Dusko Todorovic to come out here, get back on track, and defeat Jose Medina. Now, next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Claudio Puelles, he's 12-4, taking on Joaquim Neto BJJ Silva, who's 13-5. Currently, they got it a dead pick'em, -110 apiece. Joaquim Silva is 36, Claudio is 29. Claudio is 5'10, Joaquim is 5'8, and Claudio is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage at 72 inches of reach. So this is one where if this was a few years ago, I'm not even hesitating, and I'm taking Joaquim Silva at these pick'em odds. Joaquim Silva's a guy that came through for me at like +185 odds, I think it was, against Jared Gordon back in the day, and he knocked him out. It also came through for me at like -130 odds against Jesse Ronson, knocked him out too, man. Like, I love Joaquim Silva, man. Like, look, he might be a bit on the slower side, but he will swing massive concussive blows. He's got a very sneaky jiu-jitsu attack. Like, in pure grappling, he submitted Neil Magny, who's like a weight class above him. And in the UFC, in that Jared Gordon fight, I know the official result was, a knockout, but in the 2nd round, I believe it was, Silva had a silhouette stretch, that knee bar from the back. Yeah, he had one of those on Jared Gordon. So I'm just saying, Silva, he's got some sneaky jiu-jitsu. And another thing, his takedown defense has always historically been very, very solid. Now, on the other side with Puelles, he's been in the UFC a long time, and he's come a long way, man. I mean, if you watch his fight with Martin Bravo, you're like, yeah, this is never going to pan out in the UFC. And then his next fight against Felipe Silva, he got the ever-loving shit beaten out of him and got a miracle knee bar in that 3rd round. But since then, he's been getting his knee bars a little bit quicker, granted against some lower-level competition. And since he stepped up recently, the Hooker fight, but listen, Hooker, not in my opinion, but according to the official rankings, is a top 5 guy. But I think Hooker's a top 15 guy, not a top 5 guy. But still, that's a big step up in competition. You got embarrassed there. But the next fight against Ziam, even though I was surprised it was a split, he still had a lot of top control on Ziam. He's taking some time off. So here's the deal. Like I said, in Joaquim's prime, I think he's stuffing these takedowns. I don't think there's any chance he gets caught with a knee bar. And I think that he's going to light the man up standing. But now that he's a little bit older, a little bit slower, I'm curious if Claudio Puelles can keep this fight on the outside, use those kicks. And while I think it's going to be hard to get that leg lock game going, I'm just curious if he can keep it on the outside, use a kicking heavy attack, and out volume Joaquim Silva. But yeah, it depends on a lot of things. Because like I said, historically speaking, Neto BJJ is better than this guy. It's just that he's getting up there in age, and he's on the slower side. And Puelles, you could be seeing big leaps every single time he fights. So I'm a reluctantly go with Claudio Puelles to level up a little bit and hand my beloved Joaquim Silva a loss on Saturday night. Now, next up in the strawweight division, we got a matchup between Tatiana Suarez. She's 10-1. Taking on Amanda Lemos, who's 15-4-1. Currently, they got it. Tatiana Suarez -450. The comeback on Amanda Lemos is +350. So Lemos is 38. Tatiana's 34. Tatiana's an inch taller at 5'5" and is going to have an inch in reach at 66 inches of reach. So this is kind of a tricky one because, listen, a few years ago, like one of the other fights we were talking about, I mean, it's almost like a no-brainer to me that Tatiana Suarez is not just going to win this fight, but go out there and possibly submit Lemos in the first round. I mean, we've seen Lemos get submitted with a standing arm triangle by Jessica Andrade. She got submitted by Virna, but Virna, is like seriously high-level credential jiu-jitsu. So maybe that one's not as big of a deal. But the thing about it is Lemos has been improving. And I know she's 38 years old, which is like the crazy part here. But I felt like that last fight she had against Lucindo, she showed that, like, hey, if you're not on a certain level, I will still set back these young UFC prospects that aren't quite ready for me. And that's what she showed. So I was happy for Lemos in that spot. My big concern is that Lemos, from time to time, historically speaking, has given up some very easy takedowns, and that's not something you want to do against Tatiana Suarez. But I guess the odds being almost minus 500 reflect that. With Tatiana Suarez, I always kind of felt like she was massively overrated. You know, people called her the female Khabib. If you go back to my past breakdowns, I was never on that train, but I made a fucking terrible error. So once she got her title shot against Weili Zhang, dude, my dumbass was like, ignore the fact that I've been calling, you know, Tatiana overrated her entire career and one-dimensional beyond all belief. But I was like, you know what? She's paid her dues. It's destiny that she's going to be a champ. And this, I don't know why the hell I talked to myself like that. And then she looked career worst against Zhang. And then like we talked about with Diego Lopes, this is your first fight back after the title loss. We know that every fighter's dream is to be a world champion. And when you lose that opportunity, there's a reason that they have, you know, that post-title fight hangover where they underperform their next fight. So I would not be surprised at all if Tatiana Suarez underperformed. Not to mention, she looked shot. She looked like the injuries had been catching up to her. And if this fight's on the feet for any period of time, Lemos could not just hurt her, but could potentially starch her. But my issue is Lemos being put on her back. Like even this completely injured and, you know, shell of Tatiana Suarez might still be able to get takedowns here. So look, from a betting perspective, this is a dog or pass situation, because if Lemos can stuff and she's a live dog, I just don't know if she will or won't. Yeah, pure pick, sure, give me the minus 500 favorite, but no way in hell I bet Suarez here. If I'm going to bet anything, it's going to be Lemos or I'm going to pass. But pure pick, sure, I'll go with Suarez for the win. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Jesus Aguilar, he's 11-3, taking on Luis Gurule, who is 10-1. Currently, they got it Luis Gurule minus 205. The comeback on Jesus Aguilar is plus 175. Gurule is 31, Aguilar is 29. Gurule is 5'5, Jesus is 5'4, but I think Jesus is more like 5'2. And Gurule is going to have a 1.5 inch reach advantage in this spot. So, interesting fight. I'm going to let y'all know off the bat. I like Gurule in the spot. Why? Well, firstly, big respect to Jesus Aguilar. He's a little dude with big balls, man. I mean, when you're like 5'2" and you're dangling off grown men's necks, like I like this guy, man. He also swings big bombs. Like he comes to fight. He's a Mexican warrior. He's just going to be badly outsized and physically outmatched in a lot of fights. And I think this is one of those fights. You know, Gurule, look, he dropped his UFC debut, but we talk about it often. People sometimes pull stunts in those UFC debuts. They don't look like themselves. And he still won the first round, but he got caught by a very, very heavy hitter in Ode Osborne. Like Ode Osborne drops tons of people. Even in fights he loses, he drops people like Ursay, like Lazy Boy, like he's knocking people down left and right. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. So to make your UFC debut against an established vet like that and get caught, I don't think it's the end of the world, man. I think he's going to go back to the drawing board, and I think he's going to be back better. And the thing that Gurule brings to the table is a certain physicality. He's got that wrestling background, and he is durable. I know he got caught his last fight by a heavy hitter, but historically speaking, he is durable. He can also swing big as well. And that fight he had against Piccinini on Contender Series was very impressive. The way he's able to just work the entire 3 rounds, get back up from any takedown attempt. Like, I think this guy can hustle. I think this guy can grind. And I think that, you know, Aguilar's best move being his guillotine, which y'all know I'm a huge fan of the guillotine, and he is a real guillotine guy. So, you know, maybe he can make it work. I just see it being tough here, considering Gurule really has like no neck. Now, as far as Gurule getting caught with a punch, I don't think Aguilar punches nearly as hard as Ode Osborne. Not to mention, he's not fucking 5'9" like Ode Osborne. This is 5'2". So I think he's going to have a way tougher time getting to Gurule like Ode did. Like Gurule had to close distance on Ode. Aguilar has to close distance on Gurule, and I think he's going to be running into a brick wall. So, yeah, I got in on Gurule in the minus 185, minus 186 range, and I think he bounces back pretty impressively here. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Zach Reese, he's 9-2, taking on Sedriques Dumas, who's 10-3. Currently, they got it Zach Reese minus 230. The comeback on Sedriques Dumas is plus 195. Reese is 31, Dumas is 30. Reese is 6'4", but I think he's 6'5". And Dumas is 6'2". Dumas is actually going to have a 2-inch reach advantage at 79 inches of reach. So I think I got a lot to say about this fight. This is interesting. You know, I see people saying, oh, how can Reese be such a big favorite? You know, that, oh, Dumas has $13 in his bank account. So, you know, this guy, his back's up against the wall. How can you count him out? And this and that. And I don't care about any of that because, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want to see a guy with $13 in his account. But what I'm saying is like, hey, after you lose this fight, you'll have 15 to 20K in your account. Like, so like, you know, and then stop gang banging, you know, and all that. And maybe you can save your money. But as far as how they match up, here's the thing. Zach Reese, he's a tall, you know, country boy. He's strong and he's making developments, right? He moved out of, you know, the shed he was training at. Now he's at Extreme Couture. He's got heavy kicks. He's got powerful hands. He's got some opportunistic submissions. But the big weakness with Zach Reese is his takedown defense is not the best. And he's very susceptible to devastating ground and pound too. And that's going to be a factor going forward in some of his, you know, subsequent UFC fights. But the thing about that is when you're talking about Dumas doesn't have any power, you know, and it's crazy because you look at him, you think, oh, this guy must be a knockout artist. No, he's not. The way I would describe Dumas's fighting style, and this is actually like no pun intended at all. I know this is going to sound funny, but this is the truth. His fighting style is hit and run. That's how I would describe it, you know. And I know that's funny to talk about a guy like him, but really, his fighting style is hit and run. Like he's like a little point fighter, you know. He'll punch, he'll run, he'll kick, he'll run. Like, and then what he really likes to do is he gets this body lock takedown, and then he tries to take you down and just kind of lay on you. So for a guy that talks like as tough as he is, gangbanger, all this stuff, he fights pretty soft in the UFC. You know, he's never finished anybody in the UFC. In fact, in round 3 of that Dennis Chaluen fight, Dennis Chaluen was walking down Sedriques Dumas. Like Dennis Chaluen had his hand up like he won the fight. Like, dude, like these are not good looks. And then you see the, you know, Josh Fremd, who went what, like 2-5 in the UFC, finished Dumas with ease. Anytime that Dumas gets pressured, he gives the most ridiculous overreactions. Like he'll cover up and just like freak out and back up. And the thing with Chaluen was he just wasn't fast enough or aggressive enough to get Dumas to that point. But you could still see little glimpses when someone that's more aggressive goes up against Dumas, someone that's actually a real fighter. Bro, I think that Zach Reese has the chance to come out here and look like value at these minus 230 odds. Like, not only is Dumas not that great of a fighter, you know, he ain't the brightest. Like this guy's got an ankle monitor. This guy's in and out of jail. You know, like you can tell this is not a guy who lives the life, right? Like, and I saw him post a picture with his gi on and he had a white belt. Like, hey, I respect the fact that you're putting the gi back on, but my boy's a fucking white belt in the UFC, dude. Like, man. And yeah, you know, while Zach Reese has been training at Extreme Couture with real people, getting better and, you know, living the life of a professional athlete, Sedriques Dumas is hiding under dog crates, getting ankle monitors and, you know, living in a trap house. I'm like, bro, you know what this kind of reminds me of, guys? Do y'all remember a fight between Matheus Nicolau and Louis Smolka? So, you know, before I had heard any interviews, we'll get into that in a sec, I already capped the fight as I thought Matheus Nicolau was just going to outclass Louis Smolka, and I was going to bet Matheus Nicolau anyways. But then I heard an interview with Louis Smolka with Frank Trigg. It's on the MMA Odds Breaker site. Y'all got to check this out. This shit was legendary. He was talking about how, you know, he's going to sleep drunk. He's waking up and drinking. Like the guy, you know, is drunk 24/7. So I was like already going to bet Matheus Nicolau. But when I heard that, I was like, oh shit, this is not just going to be a regular bet. This is going to be a max bet. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to max bet Zach Reese because I think that, you know, he also is kind of on the greener side and some of his losses were bad looks. But back to my point about Dumas not really having much of a danger factor. Dumas has never knocked anyone out. Now, I know it says he's got 4 knockouts on his record. Let's put context into that. He's got 2 knockouts, one with a head kick, and it was against, you know, an NFC reject, like an NFC bum. And the other one was a liver kick. Okay, that's not ground and pound. And then the other guys he knocked out, like the bouts got flagged for, like, you know, being mismatches. One guy was like, what, 5-11? Like, bro, like, so Sedriques has never knocked anything legit out. And the way to beat Zach Reese is to ground and pound, knock him out or slam him. And I don't see Dumas doing anything like that. So yeah, I can't, you know, say this is a 5-unit bet because, you know, Zach Reese, like, he's still developing, but I don't think Dumas should even be fighting, bro. Ankle monitor, trap house, hiding under dog crates. Like, bro, you got to figure some shit out. I know why he's fighting. He needs that paycheck. He's got 13 bucks in his account. Hey, here's 15K or 20K or however much you make to show. Take your show money. Hopefully you don't blow it all on lawyer fees. But look, bottom line, I just think Zach Reese is going to come out here, walk this man down, put some big pressure on him, throw some shots, and make him fold and get him out of there. I'm going Zach Reese to come out here and embarrass Sedriques Dumas and look like value at this big favorite price. So give me Zach Reese here to defeat a dude that should not be fighting in the UFC this weekend. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Alessandro Costa, he's 14-4, taking on Alden Coria, who's 10-3. Currently, they got it. Alessandro Costa minus 450. The comeback on Alden Coria is plus 350. Costa's 29. Corea's 27. Costa's 5'4. Corea's 5'8. But interestingly enough, both men have a 67-inch reach in this spot. So shout out Alden Coria. Hey, can y'all let me know about something? So Alden Coria, he knocked this dude out for, I believe, the Cage Fury Championship. He won the belt, and then they overturned it. Like, was he like smoking weed or something? Because I know, remember yesterday, the Anthony Warasio, man, that sucks what happened there. Well, it doesn't suck. It sucks because I picked Warasio, but shout out to the fat boy for getting it done. But like, y'all remember, Warasio also had one of his fights overturned for marijuana, and I think it was the same promotion. So was my boy Coria just smoking the devil's lettuce and they took away his belt because of that? Like, fuck that, dude. That's some bullshit. But I like Coria. I think he belongs in the UFC. You know, he's fundamentally sound. He's long for the weight class. He's got good experience. I don't think that there's anything that really stands out or is super special, but I just think he's solid, well-rounded, and I'm happy to have him in the UFC. With Alessandro Costa, he's an interesting prospect. Firstly, he's been out for a while, but he's had a couple performances where I've been like, damn, I'm very, very impressed. Now, he's had some hit and miss performances too. You know, I guess we can give him a pass for that Albazi fight. That was his debut. I also felt like, you know, the Urseg fight, on one hand, he did give Urseg one of his toughest fights, you know, besides like, you know, the big three. Y'all know what the big three are, you know, the Pandoja, the Moreno, the Kaikara France. Besides those, I felt like he gave him a really tough fight. But that performance that Costa had against Borjas, I was like, yo, he treated Borjas like a straight up amateur regional fighter. I was like, damn, what a statement. So I definitely think Coria has something here. You know, he's the longer guy. He's got, you know, some decent hands, and I think he can have some moments, but I think Costa's calf kicks are going to be big. And once he starts to chop down Coria, then I think that Costa is going to go upstairs, and that could be the deciding factor in this fight. So I think Costa just being slightly more experienced at the higher level. And I think currently he's the more well put together fighter. So yeah, maybe these odds are a bit wide because Corea's no slouch at all. But give me Costa. I like what he's developing into. I would just like to see him fight more frequently. So yeah, but give me Costa for the win. And last but not least, in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Elise Ferreira. She's 5-0. Taking on Montserrat Rendon, who's 6-1. Look at this. Montserrat Rendon is 36. Elise Ferreira is 19. But also look at this. Elise Ferreira is 5'10". Damn, you don't see women that are 5'10" quite often. Rendon has a 68-inch reach. We currently don't know Elise Pereira's reach in the spot. So 19 years old, 5'10". Like, damn, like those are a couple things that stand out for, you know, a young prospect. And just so y'all know, so there's no confusion. No, this is not Alex Poatan Pereira's sister. That's Eileen Pereira. This is Elise Ferreira. So please let's stop the confusion, because I heard some shows being like, this is Alex Pereira's sister. I mean, can't you tell the resemblance in that left hook? Like, bro, oh my god, I'm sorry, man, that's really mean, but like, hey, someone said that, dude, and I heard it. You know. But as far as these two are concerned, here's what I think about this fight. Look, Rendon, you know, you guys already, if you've seen Rendon fight, you know the deal. Slow, plodding. Yeah, I mean, some leg kicks, some hands, some takedowns, but it's all so slow and unathletic and won't translate long term at the UFC level. That's just the bottom line. With Elise Pereira, she's another young phenom, super, super talented, massive for the weight class, and seems like someone that they're going to try to hype, try to build, and someone with a bright future. But I have a major, major concern. And I'm curious if y'all old school half the battle fans know exactly what that concern is. Because let me bring up a little bit of history. Let's take it back a few years. My friends, I'd like to take you back to February 2nd, 2019, where Taila Santos made her UFC debut. And Taila Santos eventually went on to give Valentina Shevchenko one of her toughest fights and was just simply a staple of that division. Now, in Taila Santos' UFC debut, she was only a minus 150 favorite against the worst fighter on the roster, Mara Romero Barella, who ended up going like 2-5, 1-6. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like a washout, a bum, like one of the rare female fighters with no chin. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was like, hey, Taila, go feast on the carcass, young lady, and make a statement. And Taila, who is infinitely more talented, skilled, just everything across the board, she stares at Mara Romero Barella for the first 2 rounds and loses a split decision. And it was like not even about what Mara Romero Barella did right. It was just about, Taila Santos freaked out in her UFC debut. So Pereira, look, if Pereira and Rendon fight 10 times, I got Pereira the majority of those fights. And in the majority of the fights, I think she looks a lot better than minus 140. The big issue is you're 19 years old. You're making your UFC debut. I've seen so many instances where the better fighter's making their debut, but they lose to the worst fighter because the lights are too bright that night. They choke. They don't pull the trigger. And that's my concern here. Pereira just simply not pulling the trigger and not looking like herself. But if that's not the case and she can perform how, she's fully capable of, then she's going to win this fight and she's going to probably beat Rendon everywhere the fight goes. So it just comes down to, is Pereira going to have that UFC debut stunt or not? That's what it comes down to. But pure pick, I'm going to take Pereira to defeat Rendon. So, my friends, before I get out of here, I want to say, I know there's one more fight between Donchenko and the Brazilian. I'm going to keep it a buck with y'all. I didn't get a chance to research that fight, so I'm not going to sit here and give you some kind of bullshit breakdown. That's not what I'm all about. I'm all about delivering the goods, and I'm not going to lie to my fans or talk about shit that I don't know about. So I hope these kids put on a fight. I look forward to checking them out. I just haven't had the time to do that. But my friends, I want to thank y'all so much for making this week's episode of Dana White's Contender Series, my video, the most ever watched Dana White's Contender Series video that I've ever done for a 3rd week in a row. And y'all made it the most watched episode of Half the Battle in 2025. So I'm so incredibly grateful for you guys. Thank you so much for helping my channel grow. Guys, I'm trying to get to 10K subscribers because when I do, I'm going to be giving out free signed Malcolm Wellmaker merch. So please hit that subscribe button. Guys, I look at the analytics and I see that thousands of you watch my show every week, but like half of y'all aren't even subscribed. Like, dude, what's it going to take out of your day to hit that subscribe button for me? Like, come on, man, do me that favor, please. So when you do, the quicker you do, the quicker I'm going to give out this signed Malcolm Wellmaker gear. So hook your boy up. Also, I want to give a shout out to California's own Unwritten Law. They're a punk rock band. I recently saw them in Atlanta, and check out the shirt that I thought was super fitting for Noche UFC. Like, how fucking dope is that? And what's even cooler is that this shirt was sold out, and their merch lady literally gave me the display shirt. This is the display shirt. So shout out Unwritten Law and shout out Laser Punk, their merch girl, for hooking me up. And for keeping the Noche UFC vibes going. You know what I'm saying? But listen, to the fans, thank y'all so much for your support. You don't understand how much it means to me to see, my hard work paying off. I crushed the grapes. Now I feel like I'm finally starting to drink the wine. And that's all because of you guys showing me so much love, the encouragement. So I'm going to keep delivering the goods for y'all. And I'm so appreciative of the love that y'all show me. So hit that like button. Smash the subscribe. I need to get to 10K subscribers so I can give away that merch. Leave me a comment. Share if you feel so inclined. And let me know who y'all got on this card. You know, I'm very curious. So, yeah. Thank you all again so much. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.